Hello everybody, welcome back to Talking Wolves. Today we have got a very special video today. As always, brought to you by our sponsors at Fansbet. You can see some of the specials for this weekend on the screen right now. But I'm joined today with Finners.
Hello everyone.
And Mr. Matt Cooper.
How's it going, folks?
And we do have a special guest today. Obviously, some of you Wolves fans may well have seen him on Twitter reporting a little bit about Wolves, giving us some input on some of the Portuguese friends that we've brought over to Wolverhampton. We've got Alex Goncalves. Hello, Alex. Thanks for jumping on with us today.
Hello. Thank you very much for inviting me on.
No problem. Thanks for obviously taking the time out of your schedule to help us out. So obviously today we're going to be talking to Alex. We're going to be discussing a few things, Portugal, Wolves, everything related really. So I'm going to kick off, if the other guys don't mind. I'm going to kick off talking about some of the Wolves players. So as you know, last couple of years or so, Alex, Wolves have brought in a few of these players from all around Europe really, but mainly obviously the Portos, Benficas and so on. I know you follow Benfica as well, so you should have a bit of a knowledge on some of these. If I give you some names, just let me know what you thought about them when they were signing for Wolves and how really, from what you know, how they've got on at Wolves as well. So I'm going to start off even with a couple from last year. So even Cavaleiro.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, he left Benfica quite early actually, a bit earlier than most Benfica fans probably would have liked. Moved on to Monaco, and then got an excellent move, to Wolverhampton. He did all right at Monaco. Wasn't getting particularly sufficient amount of game time, but since he's gone to Wolves, I think it's fair to say last season he did pretty well, and this season he's kind of kicked into another gear almost. And when Helder Costa was absent, when he was injured, he really stepped up, helped the team. So yeah, I mean he's been great as far as I've seen. I'm sure. I don't know if you guys would agree.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, last season, I think it's almost like it took him one season just to adjust to English football, because I think last season, especially with the managerial changes, Zenga and then Paul Lambert was chopping him in and out of the team. But his actual ratio of wins when he was in the squad was so high last season as well. So it was good to, obviously, for him now, as you say, with Costa's absence, for him to come into the team. We may as well talk about Helder Costa as well. He came from Benfica, didn't he? So what did you think, again, when he left and how he's been getting on at Wolves?
Yeah, well, I mean, he actually left Benfica. He's not particularly young, is he? I mean,
no.
He left when he was about 23, was it? So he never really got a chance at Benfica. It was a good move for him. I mean, when he was on loan at Wolves, he was fantastic. That match against Liverpool, was pretty much, I think, the turning point where Wolves decided they had to buy him. He's been unfortunate this season, hasn't he, because of the injury he had? But you can see that there's a clear spark there. He's shown in some of his matches his qualities, and I'm looking forward to seeing him next season as well.
I think, especially as you say, when he's come back from his injury, he's been fantastic the last few weeks or so. So as you say, I really look, especially if we go by that performance that he had against Liverpool last season, as you mentioned, really looking forward to see him against some of the Premier League teams. I totally forgot he came in on loan as well. It's just always felt like he was a permanent signing as well. Moving on, we'll start from the back now of these new signings from this season. Roderick Miranda, obviously, not from one of the bigger teams in Portugal, but what were your thoughts on him, if you saw much of him last season in Portugal, Alex, and what did you think it was going to be like for him moving into England?
Well, I mean, he's a tough one to really comment on, because he did show a lot of potential. I think he actually started at the Benfica academy.
Yeah.
And he had a pretty decent season last season. He's always shown. He was always thought to be one of the future centre backs of Portugal. Really, he was always considered to be a player with a lot of potential. Sadly, he hasn't really lived up to that potential. When he came to Wolves, I actually thought this was a fantastic move for him. I thought he was one of the Wolves players that had a realistic chance of making the World Cup squad. Yeah. I mean, obviously that's not going to happen now, but Portugal's centre-back situation is highly alarming. We've got Pep, who's fantastic, but he's 35. Bruno Alves, 36 now. José Fonte, 34, and all of these could be going to the World Cup in Russia. So it's not a good situation, and he had a good chance of making that squad if he performed to a high enough standard. But yeah, sadly, he hasn't really set the world alight with Wolves. So I think he'll be disappointed.
I mean, I'll ask Finn and Matt about it in a sec as well, because when Miranda came, I think I was similar to you. I was excited about this, something a little bit different. Wolves' defence over the last few years has been a real main concern, and I think this season is why we've done so well, is because Nuno has strengthened that so much. And Miranda, even at the start of the season, he showed glimpses. I think as a defender, his passing is phenomenal at times as well. He's really good on the ball. But defensively, tackling-wise, he's clumsy. Aerially, he's not brilliant as well.
Let him down, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, he got a massive chance a couple of weeks ago, and he blew it. The foul, he gave Hull the penalty, which obviously changed the game, and he didn't need to do what he did. And I've seen him before. Aerial battles, he's poor as well. But Finn, what are your overall thoughts? Do you think Miranda has a future at Wolves, or?
Yeah, well, it's a shame, isn't it? Because at the start of the season, I did like him. I obviously every time we signed a player, you'd look him up on FIFA, and I was looking at that pace, and it's something similar to Danny Bath, and you're going, "Oh God, what are we in for here?" But yeah, I really liked him. It was a shame. I think it was it QPR away where everyone sort of gave up then when it was big Matt Smith pinned him, him and Cody. But as well as not being good in the air, you can say Cody's not been great in the air, but he's made up for it in other areas. But yeah, it's a shame. I suppose Costa really put him in a sticky situation for that chance the other week.
Oh, of course.
I don't know what he was doing with that, but Mailer was going nowhere. He's got no left foot, so he's going to cut back. There's no goal there, but there was a fortnight celebration out of that. So yeah, But yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame. I'd maybe sell him on now, or I don't know.
I can't see him staying. Yeah, I can't see him staying for next season, if I'm honest. I wouldn't be surprised, Alex, to see him go back to Portugal somewhere. But Matt, your thoughts? I'd assume they're going to echo mine and Finn's as well.
Well, by all accounts, he was told he could leave in January if there was a suitor, but I think they only wanted to let him leave on loan.
I can't remember who. There was a team after him. Was it Rio Ave or someone similar to that?
I'm not too sure, but for me, he doesn't do it. He's a typical average modern day ball playing defender who can only pass. You know, if you need him to defend or win a header, he goes missing.
Yeah.
And as for wrestling people, he's like the second coming of Christoph Berra. It's all over players in the box, giving away silly fouls. He's clumsy, and I think he'll be showing the door in the summer, and rightly so, really. Right
then, enough Miranda talk. Alex, we're going to move on now to another player that is actually on loan from Monaco at the moment. He's not had much game time since the new year, really. Ruben Vinagre, obviously, I'd assume still pretty highly rated in Portugal as well.
Yeah, very exciting player indeed. I mean, he plays for the Portugal under-19s every game, full 90 minutes. He's an incredible talent, and he's a future left back for Portugal in the years to come for sure. He's got to improve his defensive ability. I think personally, he's probably more of a winger than a left back, to be honest. But if he improves the defensive side of his game, then he's gonna be a huge talent in the future. And I'm very excited. I'm pleased that Wolves brought him in. I'm pleased he got a fair few games. In the first half of the season, that was great to see. He'd never played a senior game before he came to Wolves, so I think he did a phenomenal job, all things considered, and I would very much like Wolves to keep him on.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you're saying there. I think attacking-wise, he's a very, very, he's quick, he's skillful as a left-back. Defensive things need working on. I'd probably say a good 75% of Wolves fans, if asked, would probably hold on to him because they can see the potential there as well. We've seen it against Manchester City. He held his own really against a difficult side. Obviously, that
it depends what the fee is, though, doesn't it?
Well, I think we do have a clause on him.
Big though, wasn't it?
It's 5 or 10 million. I think it's probably the higher end. If I'm honest, it might even be more. If we can get him on loan again, brilliant. But it'll be interesting to see how he gets on. Alex, I think I agree with you as well that he probably does suit more attacking. However, in the style that Wolves play with the sort of rotating forwards, I'm not sure he would fit into that as such. But as a wing back,
absolutely. And for Wolves' formation, absolutely, I think wing back is ideal for him. I was thinking more kind of like traditionally,
and a winger. I know what you mean. Yeah.
I mean, for Portugal, he couldn't. He couldn't play left back in the situation that he is right now. He's not really strong enough defensively yet.
Yeah.
But certainly as a wing back, I think that's pretty ideal for him.
Yeah. So moving on again, we've got we'll stick. We'll save the best till last. A player on loan, obviously now looking. Well, it is agreed that he's going to be joining Wolves in the summer. Atletico Madrid, Diogo Jota. So thoughts on him? Did he play much in Portugal, or what was he like in Portugal before moving to Spain? Obviously, actually, he played for Porto, didn't he, as well?
He did, yes, indeed. He did a great job at Passos de Ferreira.
Yeah.
In his season, I mean, he was something like, I think, 9th top scorer, which for he did a great job there. He was fantastic. He went to Atletico Madrid. He went back on loan to Porto, and he was fantastic there as well. You know, he played in the Champions League a lot last season.
Yeah.
I think he played in pretty much every game, not in terms of minutes, but I think he featured at some point in pretty much every single game. Got a few, I think at least one goal I can remember last season in the Champions League. So yeah, he was very good. Knew about him.
Yeah.
And it was a great signing. It was always going to be a great signing though, because he's a fantastic player. Yeah,
I think hopefully, I mean, last few weeks again, he's come starting to show glimpses of what we saw at the start of the season. I think since the new year, similar to Leo Bonatini, he's been a little bit quieter. Well, we may as well speak quickly about Bonatini, because I know he's not Portuguese, but he has had stints in the...
Oh, he was in that picture, wasn't he?
Yeah, I didn't really understand.
I was wondering why
he's
with the Portugal flag.
He's Portuguese flag as well, yeah.
He's a wannabe Portuguese, absolutely.
That's it. But he had a little spell. Was it Estoril? Am I saying that right? Estoril?
Yeah, absolutely, Estoril. Yeah, he was excellent in his second season.
Yeah.
First season, you wouldn't really know that he existed. I mean, he didn't really do much. But
yeah.
Second season, absolutely. I mean, what was it? I think it was 4th top scorer in the entire league.
Yeah.
The youngest in the top 9 or top 8. Fantastic signing. Yeah, I mean, because he was someone who was linked with Benfica and Porto after that season with Estoril, went off to Al Hilal, which took many by surprise. So a very interesting pick out from Wolves to find him. Brilliant first half of the season. I think, in fairness to him, as poor as he has been second half of the season, without him in the first half of the season, Wolves would be nowhere near.
That's what I mean. Yeah, of course.
I mean, it's because he was carrying the team a lot in the way that he was getting all the goals. He was the only striker, wasn't he? That Wolves had
for a long time. Yeah.
For the whole until January. So he deserves a lot of credit for everything he did. Do I think he'll be there by the time we come to the summer?
Yeah.
I would be surprised, purely because I can't see both him and Benik Afobe staying.
I think Afobe's got a better chance of staying than Bonatini.
Well, yeah, there's been reports as well this week that Benik Afobe and Willy Boly look like they're both set to stay as well. Bonatini, though, do you see him staying in Saudi Arabia, or would you not be surprised to see him move maybe back to Portugal?
Bonatini?
Yeah, Bonatini, yeah.
It's a tough one for him. I mean, it's very interesting. It's the same kind of position as Miranda in the sense that you can't be sure what their next career move is from here, will they stay in England where they've proven that they are capable, or certainly Bonatini proved that he's very capable in the Championship. I mean, yeah, it's a tough one. I think he'll go back to Al Hilal, probably assess his options. I think he'll have a fair few options from both the Championship and
definitely. I mean,
Aston Villa wanted him at the start of the season.
Yeah. I mean, he's proved in England that he's going to bag over 15 goals. You know what I mean? Almost around 15 goals. And I think for any Championship team, that is definitely, obviously, a big asset. And before we move on to the finale again, Willy Boly now, he played for Porto as well. Was he? Because I know he was linked with going back to Porto even in January because of their centre back struggles. Wolves set to sign him now. What was he like in Portugal? Because obviously, I think he had stints in France and so on as well. Obviously.
Yeah, I mean, he was at Braga.
Yeah, Braga as well. Yeah.
Excellent at Braga. He fully deserved that transfer to Porto. He was unfortunate at Porto because they have probably the 2 best centre backs in Portugal.
Yeah.
An incredible centre back partnership. So he was always going to struggle to get game time ahead of Felipe and Marcano. But yeah, he's a fantastic player. He's the sort of player that the strikers fear playing against. He's got a bit of everything. He's very physical. He's not particularly slow either. So give him the credit he deserves there. But yeah, just reads the game really well. From what I've seen of him in Portugal. And yeah, he needed convincing to come to Wolves. We should remember that. But I think he'll agree that this was a very worthwhile move.
I think so as well. I mean, even since the turn of the year, on the ball he looks fantastic as well. Obviously, physically he's always going to be. I mean, there's a lot of the time the defenders end up on the floor when they go for an aerial duel with him. But on the ball, like taking it past players, just strolling through the midfields of other teams, like. He looks like a really, really good player as well, and I think
he loves a pirouette, doesn't he?
That's it. He'll be massive. He'll be massive in the Premier League for us, I think, as long as we can keep him as well.
Apparently, West Brom had tried to sign him 2 seasons ago, and he turned them down because they weren't a big enough club, which is also nice.
Speaks volumes. So, Alex, we're moving on now. Obviously, Mr. Ruben Neves came in from Porto. Obviously, some massive, even Premier League teams are after him. How surprised were you, before we go on to his season, how surprised were you to see him even linked with Wolves, let alone move to the Molineux?
Yeah, I was. I couldn't believe it, to be honest. I mean, people were asking about it, and I kind of denied it immediately without really checking it up on it at all, because I thought it was just absurd.
Yeah.
And then as soon as someone told me their source, I looked into it a little bit more, and yeah, I realized this is actually happening. So yeah, I couldn't believe it at all. It's unbelievable. But that said, I don't know why it was so surprising. Porto have Danilo Pereira.
Yeah.
Ruben Neves didn't really play much last season. Played maybe a dozen league games. So yeah, people were surprised. People thought that this was a terrible move for him. He'll never get to play for Portugal now. But actually, it's been the complete opposite. He's been absolutely fantastic. And remember, this is a guy who didn't just play in the Champions League as a teenager. He captained his club as an 18-year-old.
Yeah. And
there's a reason for that. That's his passing, shooting, general technical ability. If Wolves hadn't got promoted this season, he'd have probably been straight out of the door. But hopefully, he'll stay for many years to come now.
Yeah. Do you think he'll stay next season as well? I think he'll give us one. Yeah.
I'm almost certain he'll be there for at least one more season, at the very least. Particularly while Nunu's there.
Yeah.
I don't see him leaving. I don't really see him leaving before Nuno in some ways. I think that, they've got a good relationship going, especially all of the Portuguese players around them.
Yeah.
I think they're quite excited by the journey that they're on. So, yeah, I don't think there's anything to fear about him leaving this summer, certainly.
I think the good thing for Wolves is that, obviously, the owners are friends with Mendes, so it's not like Mendes... Obviously, if a massive offer comes in, that's when they'll talk about it, but it's not like Mendes is now going to be rushing to get rid of him as soon as possible, because it's clear for everyone... bias or not, it's clear for everyone that Wolves are looking to go places. So it's not like that's it. We're just going to be a Premier League side now. We're going to look to push top half of the table, Europa League, Champions League in years to come. So there's ambition there, and I think that's what Neves and Mendes and everyone else needs to look at as well. So that's my bit done. I'm going to let Matt and Finners have the floor for a bit now. But Matt, I know you've got a couple of questions, so you can kick off, speak to Alex if you want as well.
Yeah, I've just been speaking to a few people. How are Wolves received in Portugal now? Obviously, we're bringing an influx of Portuguese players over, probably unheard of before Fosun took over. But what's it like now? Are they mentioned within the Portuguese press or?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, online on O Jogo, they're always keeping the Portuguese people up to date on what's happening at Wolves. I remember in one newspaper they did a whole, I think it was a double page spread entirely dedicated to Wolverhampton Wanderers, which is incredible for a second division side in any country to take up 2 pages in a paper that's fully dedicated to Portuguese football is absolutely startling, something we've never really seen before. And yeah, it's been really well received. I mean, when Neves scored that wonder goal, that was trending within the hour in Portugal, which again, it was untelevised in Portugal. We should remember that.
Yeah.
And it's a second division game in England, but within the hour on the same night as the Champions League, Cristiano Ronaldo scoring a last minute penalty. He basically stole the show. It was absolutely fantastic.
And how's Jorge Mendes received in Portugal? Because over here he's kind of, everyone thinks he's a bit of a villain, but is he, say, a national treasure in Portugal?
I wouldn't call him a national treasure as such. I mean, he's got a great relationship with Ronaldo, which obviously helps because everyone in Portugal loves Ronaldo, basically. I know that Sporting were quite interesting. The president that came in there said that he wasn't going to do any deals with Jorge Mendes, which is quite interesting. They've kind of resolved that issue now, but he didn't do any business with Mendes clients really for a long time, which is probably why we haven't really seen any links between Sporting players and Wolves as such, But yeah, I mean, it shows. I mean, they haven't won the league for 15 years now or so. So, Mendes is very important.
And a lot of people, as you've probably been tweeted about 300 times a day, Talisca, Andre Silva, and Vincent Abubakar. What are your thoughts on those coming to Wolves in the summer?
Wow. Well, there's a lot to say about each one. I mean, the Talisca case is an interesting one. It seems highly unlikely that he'll be returning to Benfica in the summer after he was quite disrespectful towards the club. He celebrated a goal wildly. He scored for Besiktas against Benfica while on loan from Benfica to Besiktas.
Is that the free kick?
In the Champions... Exactly right, in the Champions League. Wow. So his time at the club looks limited. His days are numbered. Interestingly, he did sign a new contract with Benfica, actually this year until 2020, although that's purely for Benfica to have more leverage when it comes to selling him. So do I think he could go to Wolves? I think it's a possibility. I mean, certainly Wolves have shown an interest in him in the past. There are plenty of clubs interested in him. Besiktas are one. Plenty of other names being thrown about, Valencia, Man United. I don't think there's too much substance to that rumour at all yet. Although, it's certainly one to keep an eye on. I mean, they're aiming high, so it's a possibility. Abubakar, he's been brilliant for Porto this season.
He had a falling out with Nuno, didn't he, at Porto?
Is that true, though?
Exactly.
Well?
Yeah, well, I mean, he was displeased, disgruntled, I think it's fair to say, while he was at Porto with Nuno there, being sent on loan to Besiktas again, and felt a little underappreciated. I was quite surprised that he stayed at Porto, really. And Sergio Conceição, the new Porto manager, did a terrific job in persuading him to stay. And he signed a new contract until 2021 in the summer. So I'd be surprised if he went to Wolves, particularly with the setup they've got there at the moment. But it would be an unbelievable signing, and Nuno can overcome this. He didn't have a brilliant relationship with Ruben Neves, I don't think. I mean, nothing negative, but obviously Ruben Neves would have been disappointed not to have played more. Yeah. So he could overcome that, I'm sure.
And the big one is on Andre Silva.
The guy who kept Abubakar out of the team.
Yes, absolutely. Now, that is an interesting one. I mean, he's had a tough time in Italy, hasn't he, in this first season? I think that's fair to say. Although in the Europa League, doing a great job, or did a great job while they were in it. He's been really unfortunate, though. I think the fact that he didn't score for something ridiculous 6 months at the beginning of the season in the league is incredibly misleading and an injustice to him, because the stats say he played over 20 league games or whatever and only scored twice, although in most of those games he's only really played 25 or so minutes in each one. So it's tough to make an impact when you brought on for just the last half an hour or something. I mean, a move to Wolves, it's fairly unlikely, I suppose, but it's not unrealistic at all. It's certainly a plausible one. He's a striker, which I'm sure is the position Wolves are most interested in strengthening. He's Portuguese. He's a men's client. Nuno knows him incredibly well. They have a good relationship from their time there. He hasn't had a great experience in Italy, and now Wolves are in the Premier League. They could definitely afford the £30 million asking price.
Oh, it's too good to be true.
Do you think it could be more of a loan signing with a view to a permanent rather than a straight up permanent?
I think that AC Milan seem to have a habit of trying to move players on once they don't give them much time. If I'm correct in saying, I think they'd be quite interested to sell him if they can get their money back. A loan would come with a big fee still. I think they would want some money in return for that. But the men's factor is huge. It's huge, isn't it? So it would be an ideal move for the club. It would be an ideal move for the player as well in many ways, because he'd get more game time. He'd probably be worshipped by the fans straight away. They'd give him more time, I think. So
he's worshipped already.
Exciting.
Yeah, he's worshipped already. He's not even held a Wolves
We
shirt.
saw
You know
always
what I
that
mean?
tweet the other day of the black and gold boots that he tweeted, and all the
And the day
reply.
before, he put one with a thinking emoji as well, didn't he?
I know.
So he's
He's
teasing
little
us all.
tease, isn't he, old Andre?
Yeah, he's teasing us all. Finn, have you got any questions to fire at Alex whilst we're here?
Not really. I was going to ask about Andre Silva as well, because that would.
Sorry, Finn.
No worries.
Stealing his
No worries.
thunder.
I can't. There's only one very, very minor one. You probably won't even want to put this in, but I was going to order the new Portugal shirt the other day. Do you know what number Neves will be in the summer?
Well, I can guarantee he will be there. What number is he going to wear? That's a very interesting question.
That's
I'll
what I
look
went to
into
do
that
it,
one
and then
for
I was
you.
thinking, do I just go for 8? Do I just?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'd be. Yeah, that's a good question. It could be a
I'll just
number
wait
8.
on it. I'll wait on it.
I'll let you know.
There we go.
Thank
So do you think that, obviously, as you just said, do you think Neves is now almost a cert for the World Cup squad?
Yeah, I can guarantee that he will be, if fully fit, injury free for this World Cup. He's definitely on that plane to Russia. His seat will be reserved.
Beautiful.
The main reason for that, of course, is Danilo Pereira is injured and he'll miss the tournament with an Achilles tendon injury. Would Neves make it to Russia if Danilo were fit? I would probably guess not. That's taking nothing away from Neves. It's just the quality Portugal have in midfield. But he fully merits his place on the plane to Russia, absolutely.
Sweet. So that's obviously gives us all a reason to actually watch the World Cup now as well. But
Apart from England, Dave.
oh yeah, we've got some. Obviously, we tweeted out earlier though as well on our Twitter. I know Matt tweeted it out. You can check us out on Twitter at Talking Wolves as well. We go through a couple of the questions now. Russ Cockburn, he says, "What are the chances of Wolves taking on Porto or Benfica in the summer?"
Oh, well, you know what? That's actually that's not too unlikely, really. Certainly a possibility. I would love to see it. Benfica, for example, they played against Hull last summer in a pre-season friendly in the Algarve. They actually lost 1-0, which is pretty disappointing.
I'd love that
But,
though. If Wolves played it, because I've been to Benfica's ground as well, which is absolutely quality, and I'd love to go back there to see the Wolves there. Yeah. And Russ also says, is it Sagres or Superboc?
Superboc.
That's it.
Oh, that's a great question. Great question. I mean, it can prove pretty divisive if you ask the right people that question. As a personal preference, I would have to go for Superboc. Obviously, Sagres is perhaps the more typical Lisbon choice, made in Lisbon, sponsoring Benfica even. But Superboc I think is better. But worth trying them both.
Yeah.
You know, if you get the chance, and if Molineux starts selling either of them, I am going to be there.
Well, that's another question that a few people have asked. I know Ezra Wolf, Finley, I know a few have all asked, when are you going to come to the Molineux and watch the Wolves play?
Well, I mean, I will definitely be going to the Emirates to watch Arsenal Wolves. That's for sure.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, certainly at the very least, we'll hopefully go to watch the reverse fixture at Molineux as well when Wolves take on Arsenal. Yeah, definitely we'll be looking into that one. But yeah, I hope to get down a couple of times. To be honest, it'll be quite interesting. Never been to Wolverhampton.
It's a lovely place. Lovely place.
Is it a lovely place?
Is it though?
Picturesque.
No, that's like, you know, when Cavaleiro joined and he signed for Monaco and had the picture obviously in Monte Carlo in front of the bay and stuff, and I was like, how have they sold Wolverhampton to him, like leaving Monaco to come here? So finally, again, signings, it's so hard to predict, especially when the season's not even over and there's just rumours flying everywhere already. But are there any players in your eyes that currently play for maybe a few Portuguese teams that Wolves should take a punt on and should be a sufficient quality? So, for example, I know it's unlikely now, obviously, as you said, the thing about Sporting, but someone maybe like the William Carvalhos or someone like that.
Well, I mean, I would say Renato Sanches for Swansea, for Bayern Munich. That is an incredibly interesting one. It's been overlooked. I mean, it's not a Portugal-based player, but where will he be playing next season? That's incredibly tough to call.
Well, that's what we mentioned it earlier as well, Matt, didn't we? Yeah. About him as well.
I don't think he'd come back to England because he's had a torrid time with Swansea. I remember when we played them in the FA Cup, and he came off after about half an hour.
Yeah, we didn't give him a great reception either, did we?
No.
Really? Not very welcoming.
But I mean, he's still one of the biggest prospects in Portuguese football. You know what he did at Benfica to help drag us to the title last season. What he did at the Euros or the season before, sorry, with Benfica, or what he did at the Euros, that was no fluke at all. You know, his time at Bayern probably ended up stalling his growth, really, which was a possibility, as sad as it is. And then it's no secret that he's found it difficult at Swansea for sure. But you know, he just needs the confidence, and who better to give him that confidence than someone like Nuno Espirito Santo? Personally, I find the prospect of Neves playing with Renato Sanchez incredibly exciting.
I think he'd fit in as well.
Because Renato Sanchez is probably the ideal box-to-box midfielder that you could ask for. You know, he's incredibly strong. He's very tenacious when motivated. He's skillful. You know, he's just absolutely fantastic. When he's on his stride, absolutely brilliant. And that could be an unbelievable partnership. And you know what? I think Wolves surely are one of the favourites to get him. I'm not saying that they will, but I think just common sense should suggest, you know, being a Mendes client, considering how difficult he's had it. He's a tough one to call, but I would say
it'd have to be a loan signing, wouldn't it? We wouldn't be able to afford him.
No, absolutely, and I think Bayern would be open to that, to loaning him out again. I think he would probably be much happier at Wolverhampton because there's all the Portuguese players around him to encourage him. Nuno Espirito Santo will give him the time. He'll give him the comforting words that he needs, the encouragement. I think it would be great for him, fantastic for him, and fantastic for Wolves.
I like that a lot, and we can end it there as well. But Alex, thank you so much for coming on to Talking Wolves. Hopefully, maybe closer to the season we may talk again. Maybe see if Wolves have brought in any more Portuguese players as well. But obviously, you can check out Alex and on his Twitter. He does give good insight on Wolves, Portuguese football in general. So if you guys are interested or have any questions for him, I'm sure he'd be happy to try and help you out as well. So you can check out his Twitter by me, Finn, Matt as well. All our stuff is in the description. You can check out Talking Wolves over on Facebook and Twitter. But until next time, guys, thanks for joining me today, and we'll see you all next time.